Imagine every single day you wake up feeling like you're carrying the weight of the entire world on your shoulders. The pressure to not just survive, but to build something that matters. To create a business that doesn't just fill a market space, but actually changes the game. Yet behind that ambition, behind that fire, there's a hollow part that no one talks about. The part where doubt creeps in quietly but firmly. The part where vulnerability sits like a shadow stretched across your every move. It's uncomfortable, it's scary, and it feels like weakness. Because here's the brutal truth. Being a founder, really being one, means standing at the edge of chaos every damn day. You're expected to have all the answers, to be unbreakable, and to push forward no matter what. Show no cracks. Hold your emotions close like a secret weapon. But what if all that's holding you back isn't your doubts or your fears? What if it's your refusal to be vulnerable? That's the real barrier. The one thing blocking the superpower you didn't even know you had. This isn't just talk for the sake of sounding deep. It's the raw core of what it's like to be a founder in a world that glorifies toughness and hides pain behind polished veneers. You're exhausted, yeah. Burned out from endless meetings, decisions, and the constant stream of what-ifs that never stop. And here's the catch. Because you don't let anyone see how much it actually hurts, you end up fighting the battle alone. The mask you wear doesn't just fool the world, it traps you inside, isolated and starving for genuine connection. The space where you can just say, I'm scared, I don't know the next step, I'm losing my grip. That space feels like a luxury nobody can afford, least of all you. But what if that space, that very vulnerability, is your greatest untapped strength? What if letting those walls down, showing up with all your cracks and fears, is exactly what fuels your next breakthrough? This isn't about whining or weakness. It's about reclaiming your humanity in a world that desperately wants to turn you into a machine. Because here's the secret most people miss. Vulnerability isn't the opposite of strength. It is strength. It's the raw, unfiltered fuel that connects you to your team, to your vision, and to your own deepest courage. Why does this matter? Because the landscape for founders is venomous with loneliness. The fake bravado we're sold creates emotional prisons. But vulnerability shatters those walls. It builds bridges instead of barriers. Imagine for a second telling your team not what you want them to hear, but what you actually feel. Not hiding your uncertainties, but owning them. This kind of honesty is terrifying, and that's exactly why it's revolutionary. It cuts through the noise instantly. People crave truth, authenticity, the real blood and sweat that drives the grind. When you embrace vulnerability, you invite others in. You create a culture where risks are real, failures are learning, and support is genuine. Let's dig deeper, because vulnerability isn't just about saying, I'm scared. It's about turning that fear into a navigation tool, rather than a noose around your neck. Here's a professional truth that changes the game. The founders who use vulnerability effectively don't just survive chaos, they harness it. When you admit where you don't have all the answers, you open the door for collaboration that's explosive and fresh. You build a team that feels trusted, so they give their best ideas and effort, not just clocking hours. This is where the magic lives, in being so open and real that you ignite others' passion and bravery. That's a leadership style many never learn because society teaches us to hide, to pretend, to armor up. But the rare founders who dare to be raw, they don't just lead companies, they build movements. And here's the thing, the world needs those movements now more than ever. Because the old system, the worn-out playbook, isn't working. It's built on conformity, and founders are the ones pushing against it. But pushing against the system while hiding your true self is a losing battle. Vulnerability is the radical act that breaks the cycle. If the system wants you to be a copy, a safe, predictable version of yourself, your authenticity is the rebellion. It's your superpower weapon that slices through near impossible odds. Emotionally, This shift is seismic. At first, it might feel like admission of weakness is a fall, a loss of control, but it's the exact opposite. Vulnerability gives you control like nothing else because it stops you from wasting energy on performances and pretenses. It frees your mental space. It untangles your emotional knots. Instead of exhausting yourself by trying to be flawless, you reclaim your true focus, the work that moves the needle. This alone can rewrite your entire daily experience. Here's a practical move that most founders overlook because it feels scary or counterintuitive. Start small. Share a real challenge with one trusted person, a raw truth about your doubts, about a failure no one knows. Notice how this simple act changes the dynamic. You'll be surprised how often vulnerability is met not with judgment, but with relief and closeness. This creates that precious connection, the rare link that founders desperately need but often don't get. Connection like this fills gaps in your brain and soul faster than any MBA lesson or networking event. It builds resilience, not by pretending to be invincible, but by standing tall with all your imperfections. Next, let's blow apart the myth that vulnerability equals oversharing or loss of boundaries. This couldn't be further from reality. Vulnerability done right is selective and intentional. It's about revealing the parts of yourself that move the mission forward, not dumping your chaos on anyone who will listen. It's mastering the art of truth with purpose, which instantly distinguishes leaders from the noisemakers. When wielded consciously, vulnerability becomes a magnet for the right people, the ones who get your vision because they see your real heart. Then alignment isn't forced, it happens naturally, and the system begins to amplify your unique power instead of diluting it. Here's another explosive insight. Vulnerability syncs perfectly with patience. When you learn to show up fully human in the now, you stop chasing the false promise of overnight success. You embrace the long game, the eternal grind with grit and grace. This mindset is the secret ingredient behind founders who build not just companies, but legacies. They understand the path is twisting, filled with setbacks and breakthroughs, and vulnerability keeps them anchored and flexible at once. You cease resisting your own learning curves. You become fluent in uncomfortable growth. This is not weakness. This is warrior-level endurance. Let's talk about the world we live in, where every founder is bombarded with a million voices telling them who they should be, what they should do, how to behave. All those voices are drowning out your inner truth, the vital spark you came here carrying. When vulnerability springs from that inner truth, it cuts through the noise like a supernova. It lets you reject borrowed rules and shallow rituals that kill creativity and soul. Vulnerability makes you sovereign, not by control over others, but by power over yourself through radical honesty. That is the beating heart of freedom. Freedom not sold by smoke and mirrors, but embodied by the few who dare to be real. When vulnerability is owned, it creates wild synergy between individuals who would otherwise stay isolated by ego and fear. The magic happens in the meeting of imperfect humans who trust each other enough to push boundaries and create new realities. This network of raw, authentic connection is the future, not the fake comfort of platforms and systems designed to cage and categorize. You don't have to be the hero who solves everything alone. You only need to find the few who burn as fiercely as you do, and vulnerability is the bridge to find them and fuse your powers together. Are you feeling that internal tension? That pressure to be invincible, to have the perfect plan, to never show weakness? That has trapped more founders than failure ever will. The decision to shift. That's the turning point. Choosing vulnerability is choosing to rise above isolation and pretense. It is the key to becoming fully alive and fully free in your mission. You don't need to fake it anymore. You don't need to carry that hidden pain alone. You don't need to keep pretending everything is fine, while inside you feel like you're breaking. That act exhausts your soul and steals your power. Instead, dare to be seen as you are, a founder with fire, with flaws, and with fear. That truth, once claimed, becomes a weapon sharper than any armor. So here's the challenge. Embrace vulnerability, not as a fleeting tactic, but as a foundational habit. Practice it relentlessly. Tune into your feelings, share your truth in ways that serve your vision, and watch as your world changes. Not overnight, not smoothly, but powerfully. Because vulnerability connects you, grounds you, and ignites you. It makes you human at a time when the world desperately needs humans who dare to create a new future. Remember, the system wants you to hide your pain and wear your armor. But your superpower lies in ripping that armor off and standing in the fire of your own authentic experience. In that fire, you become unbreakable. So let vulnerability be your new weapon, your secret strength to unite, to lead, to endure, and ultimately to conquer what no script or rock-solid facade ever could. The moment you own your vulnerability is the moment you unlock your true founder power. This isn't theory, it's the radical reality that transforms survival into revolution. And if you dare to burn that bright, you won't just change your world, you will set the stage for all those who come after you to rise too. Right here, right now, the power has always been yours. The only thing holding you back is the fear to be truly real. So, will you finally let yourself be vulnerable? Because when you do, that fragile truth becomes an unshakable foundation. And with that foundation, the impossible becomes your next move.